Hello guys and welcome back. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be taking you through the step of creating this beautiful short with a rope attached at the waistline. So we're going to start from the pattern drafting, then to the cutting, and finally to the joining of these pieces together. So kindly watch this video to the end. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, share and subscribe to our channel. Alright, so let's get straight into this tutorial. So guys, the first thing we're going to be doing is to mark 3 inches on the width and on the length of our papers. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 3 inches all the way on the length, and I'll do the same for the width. Now the reason why we're marking these 3 inches is just to give space for our back alterations. Alright, so when we are altering the back, we're going to be using this space. So what we are marking is kind of a border line. After getting the border lines, the first line here is going to serve as my waistline. So from that waistline, I placed my tape to get the length of my shirt. And for here, I'm working with length 18 plus 1 inch for hemming allowance. So I went ahead to mark 18 and 19, and I will go ahead and roll it over. After getting the length of my short, the next thing I did was to determine my hip line. So from the waistline, I'm marking 9 inches. This is going to serve as my hip line. So from the waist to the hip is 9 inches. I went ahead to mark this and I'll be rolling it over. After marking the hip line, the next thing I did was to determine my crouch depth. So to get your crouch depth, all you have to do is divide your hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1 inch. So my hip measurement is 10 inches plus 1 inch, that is 11 inches. So I went ahead to mark 11 inches, and I'm going to connect the lines as well. Now because we are attaching a rope to the waist of this shirt, or if you want to attach an elastic, all I did here was to add my hip measurement at the waistline, and I also marked the same measurement at my crouch line. Alright, and I'm going to extend these lines together. So but in situation whereby you want your shirt to have side zippers, all you have to do is to divide your waist measurement by 4 plus 1 inch for that intake. Then you're going to mark it here and connect the line straight to the hip. Alright, so let's continue with what we are doing. The next thing I went ahead to do was to mark my front crouch extension. And to get this, all you have to do is to divide your hip measurement by 20. Alright, so for me, I have 2 inches, and I went ahead to mark 2 inches from this point to this point. Okay, so this is my 2 inches. Now the next thing I will do is to connect these 2 inches we marked outwards. I'll connect it to the hip line. Okay, but it's not necessary that it touches your hip. So all you have to do is just to give it a good blend, just the way I did here. Alright, the next thing I did after marking my front crouch extension was to get the crease line of our shorts. So to get the crease line, all you have to do is to measure from this front crouch extension, measure it to the side, then get the midpoint. So I went ahead to mark the midpoint, and whatever it is I have here, I'm going to be marking the same at the hem of my shirt. Okay, so can you see the way I placed my tape? Then I'm going to be connecting this line from the hem to the crouch line. Then I went ahead to connect this. The next thing I did was to divide my knee measurement divided by 2, and I had 10 inches. So now that 10 inches, I'm going to be sharing it on both sides. So I marked 5 inches on one side and 5 inches on the other side. Okay, then I'm going to be connecting from the crouch line to this 5 inch we marked here. I'm going to connect it like so. Then from my crouch front extension, I'm going to connect it down to the other 5 inches. Now the reason why we have our crease line is to make sure your side seams aligns properly. Okay, that way one side seam won't be tilting forward or moving to the back, so it aligns properly. That's why we have our crease line. Okay, now we're going to be working on the back panel. All right, so from this particular point I'm going to come in by 0.75. Sorry, I didn't have a marker. I would have used the marker to differentiate the front panel and the back panel. So kindly pay attention so you understand what I'm doing. I came in by 0.75, and at the waistline I came in by 1.5. Then I'm also going upwards by 1.5. all right, then I'm going to rule a slanted line from this 0.75 to the 1.5 inch here, then extend it up. All right, now the reason why we came up by 1.5, this is to make the back panel to be longer, so it will accommodate our bum bum. Okay, in that way when you bend down, your inner wears won't be showing. All right, now from that 1.5 inches we marked earlier, we are going to be getting our hip measurement. Remember, we're working with our hip measurement at the waistline. Okay, we didn't insert our waistline because this trouser is making use of either an elastic or a rope. That way to be able to pass your hip. Now I went ahead to extend the hip line and the crouch line. Now from our back line, our back center line, I'm going to be measuring our hip line as well. So from here I went ahead to measure 10 inches as well, and I'm going to be adding 1 inch for bum bum allowance. Okay, so I marked 1 inch here. Then I measured what I have here remaining. See, the remaining amount I have here, I'm going to be marking it up here, because if we are to measure from our hip line again, we're not going to get the exact calculation. All right, so this is why I did what I did there. Then I'll connect from the hip line straight to the waistline. I hope what I'm explaining is quite understandable. So after you've gotten this, the next thing we're going to do is to add 1/2 inch on the hemline. Now remember, for your knee and for your ankle, in case you're making a trouser, the difference between the back and the front is just 1/2 inch. Okay, so I will connect this 1/2 inch to the crouch line like this, and I'm going to be doing the same thing for the other side. But before that, we need to mark the back crouch extension. So for this place, I just went ahead to curve to eliminate the sharp edges. Okay, just to give it that curve. That's what I did here. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to get our back crouch extension. To get the back crouch extension, you divide your hip measurement divided by 10. Whatever you have, you're going to mark it. For me, I had 4 inches. So from my center back crouch line, I marked 4 inches. Then I'm going to connect it as well. Now while connecting this, you don't necessarily need your crouch, you don't necessarily need to start from that 4 inches. Okay, just connect it like so, then extend your line like this. Okay, but the most important thing is the line should touch your center crouch, your center back crouch. So guys, I really hope you understand what I just said. The next thing I did was to connect the back crouch line to the 1/2 inch we marked earlier at the knee length, right? So after that, we'll go ahead and cut this out. So in case you don't have the luxury of paper, all you have to do is to cut out your back panel first before you do the alteration on the front panel. But I'm going to show you how to cut out the back panel right now. So the next thing I did was to cut out my pattern paper. Okay, so I'm going to be cutting this following all the lines we've actually ruled out. Now for the hemline, this is how I'm going to fold that allowance we left for hemming the shirt. Okay, you don't cut it direct. All you have to do is just fold this, so by the time you're done cutting, while hemming your shirt, the hem is going to align properly. I'm going to actually show you what I mean. So I'll continue cutting this way. So when I got to the crouch line, I went ahead to cut on the front crouch line. All right, remember this is the crouch line we marked for the front. Please do not confuse the two lines. Now if you have a tracing wheel, all you have to do is place a new pattern paper beneath this particular paper and trace out your back panel. It works as well. But if you don't have a tracing wheel, you can do it like this. It actually works as well. Now take note how I'm cutting this particular part. Can you see? Then back to the hem line, I want to show you something. The reason why we folded this 1 inch is just to get this curve here. Can you see how it's looking down here? Now when you begin to hem your dress or your shirt, this is how it's going to look like. For a situation whereby you do not fold it, this is how it's going to come out and it won't look very neat. Okay, so always remember to fold your 1 inch seam allowance, your hemming allowance, before cutting out. Then after that, let us go ahead and fold the crouch line to enable us get our back completely. So what I did now was to just I notched the front crouch line so I can be able to fold this inwards. Okay, so I went ahead to fold it like this. Remember, you're not cutting this out, you're just notching it so you can actually fold it to get your back crouch line. All right, so kindly follow what I'm doing here. You'll definitely get it correctly when you're doing your practicals. Alright guys, if you followed everything I said here correctly, this is what you're going to have. Now by folding the front crouch line inside, we've gotten our full back panel. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do right now is to place this on a new pattern paper and I will cut out the back panel. So let me do that quickly. Alright guys, can you see what the back panel looks like after we were done cutting it out? So I went ahead to label this and I'm going to keep it aside. Now once we're done with the back panel, what we're going to do is to do the alterations for the front and attach our pocket. So I'm going to show you how to cut the pocket. Alright, so let's do that. So guys, for the front alterations, I went ahead to bring out the notched parts we folded earlier. Okay, remember this is for the front panel. Then I used my masking tape to hold it together. Then the next thing I did was to cut out those extensions we did for the back. So we're going to be cutting this out. We no longer need it. Then this is for the back. Then we're going to be cutting this as well. The excess is for the back panel. Remember, we already cut out our back panel, so we do not need these other ones anymore. So I'm cutting it out. Remember, always fold your hem while cutting out, so it's going to align with the back. Then I went ahead to cut here as well. And right now we have our complete front panel intact. Can you see the front panel? Like I said earlier, the back panel is always bigger and longer than the front panel. Can you see this? So this is how it looked like. So guys, before we go ahead creating our pockets, I want to quickly show you how to cut out your band. So from the waistline, I went ahead to mark 1.5 inches. Okay, and I'm going to mark this on a very faint line because we are not cutting it on this pattern. Remember, we didn't include the band measurement on this shot, so you're only going to cut this after you're done cutting or transferring this pattern to your fabric. All right, so I just gave it a faint line. This is just as a reminder to help me cut out my band. So for your pockets, what I did is from the side, I marked 3 inches. You can decide to make yours 2 if you don't want it to be this wide. Then on the length, I marked 5 inches. You can still decide to make it 6 inches depending on you. Then I marked a straight slanted line. Then if you don't want your pockets to be this slanted, maybe you want it to have a curve, all you have to do is to use your curved ruler and connect as well. So it depends on the styling you want for your pocket. Okay, so for me, I'm working with this. Then for the pocket facing, from that side, I'm going in by 7 inches, or okay, let me do 6 inches. But if you want it to be a bit wider, you can do 7 inches. Then I want it to extend to my hip line. Then I also mark the same 6 inches, and I'll be connecting these lines together. All right, can you see? Now, in order to make my pocket have that curve, like that pocket look, I just created a curve like this, and I'm going to blend it inwards. So can you see how our pocket looks like? This is the facing, so that's the inner pocket, and this will serve as the pocket facing. Don't worry, by the time you transfer this to our fabric, you get to understand all these things better. So we've come to the end of this tutorial. If you like this video, kindly give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to share this video with your friends and your soul friends. Then, most importantly, please subscribe to our channel to become part of the family. Alright, if you have any question or suggestions, kindly drop this in the comment section. We are going to be there to answer all questions. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video. Bye.